Hello, I'm Kate Freeman, and this is the Daily Dollop. On this episode of the Daily Dollop, we're going to be talking about the key nutrition considerations for active lifestyles, why shredding diets are not appropriate for really active people and the consequences of trying to follow those diets, and how to find a more sustainable and realistic approach to fuel your active lifestyle. Welcome back to the Daily Dollop. My name is Kate Freeman. I'm a registered nutritionist and the founder of the Healthy Eating Hub. And fun fact about me is I've only ever broken one bone in my body. I broke my radius in my wrist when I was 16 years old. I fell off a cliff. Well, that's actually what I tell people because it makes for a much more exciting story than I just went rock climbing with some boys in year 11 on a hike, and I was scaling a wall about 3 meters off the ground, and one of the rocks I was holding on to fell away, and I fell onto very, very rocky ground, and I actually fell in the only sandy space, like perfectly from my head to my bottom. My legs fell over some rocks, had rocks behind my head, tree off to the side of me, but fell perfectly in sand underneath me. Amazing. It's a miracle. I think I had someone upstairs looking after me and just, had a little green stick fracture in my wrist. And that's it. That's all that's happened to me before otherwise. Touch wood. So on this episode of the Daily Dollop, we're chatting active lifestyles and specifically nutrition for active lifestyles. And a really big question that I often get asked is, I've just started going to the gym, or I've just started doing HIIT training, or I'm training for an ultra marathon. What do I need to do with my nutrition now? And what tends to happen frequently is that when people start to embark on more physical activity, or they're doing sport training or big competitions that they're working up to, is that they then start to dabble into the nutrition wellness sphere where there's lots of woo, and quickly find themselves really confused about how they need to optimize their nutrition to fuel their training. And I think one of the biggest pieces of woo out there, and I actually used to say this when I was a very young woman, very silly, but it's that, you go and I remember doing a workout in the gym with a friend, and then afterwards we went through Macca's drive-thru and got Big Macs and cheeseburgers. And I remember sitting in the car eating this cheeseburger being like, we just undid all our training. And we're like, yeah, we did. We just went to the gym and we undid it all with a cheeseburger. That's not true. You can't take that exercise back by eating something. You did that exercise is done. And if you were to continue to repeat exercise and the stress that puts on the body frequently over time is that your body begins to adapt, muscle becomes stronger, you increase your cardiovascular fitness, and you get the health benefits along with those adaptations. And it doesn't actually matter what you eat, those adaptations occur in your body if you are consistent with your exercise. Now, before you stone me, nutrition does play a role in how well your body adapts to that exercise. But I just want to say that you can't undo your exercise by eating certain things. That is not a thing. So just do your exercise and then eat whatever you like afterwards. Because here at the Daily Dollop, I believe that you're an adult and you can eat whatever you want. But one of the things that I find frequently in people who either do lots of intense exercise, or they're in particular sports that have an emphasis on weight, so dancers, gymnasts, ballet, or you do competitions where you have to weigh in into particular weight categories, or you need really good weight to power ratios, so we want to keep your body weight down but your strength high, is that there is a lot of pressure, both aesthetically, so from how you look, but also competitive pressure to perform well at your sport to be lean. Now, pressure to be lean causes us to make really drastic decisions with our diets often, and we can get sucked down the rabbit hole of woo. Now, I just want to do a few definitions here before I move on into restrictive dieting practices and active lifestyles. Firstly is I want to define an active lifestyle. So for the purposes of what I'm chatting about today, I would define an active lifestyle as someone who does 60 minutes or more high intensity exercise every single day. High intensity exercise is where your heart rate is close to 80% of your what we call VO2 max, or the amount of oxygen that your body is taking in to fuel that exercise. We measure that as oxygen uptake. But basically your heart rate is at around the 80% mark. You're exercising really, really hard. You're often not able to talk while you're exercising, huffing and puffing heaps, working up a little sweat, a big sweat, etc. And you're doing that pretty much every day. So if you're doing less exercise than that, general healthy eating guidelines are sufficient for you to fuel your training, particularly if you find that you have a sedentary job and so you're spending most of the day sitting. But it is important that if you are struggling with appetite and things like that, that you do get some individualized advice. But specifically today, we're talking really active people. What I frequently see with people who either take up high intensity training or exercise, or they have a competition that they're working towards, or they're starting to take their sport more and more seriously, is that they have high exercise loads and then they combine that with restrictive eating patterns in order to make themselves lean. Now, what happens is a number of things due to the stress that's placed on the body. Right from the beginning, it's really important to note that any kind of exercise is a stress on the body. And that's how we become fit and strong. Our body adapts to the stress in order for it to be able to cope more and more. Muscles become stronger, bones become stronger. Some of the other adaptations to the exercises that we do are increase blood flow to the muscles. Your heart rate is able to pump blood more efficiently. We're able to use oxygen more efficiently, things like that. And it's a good thing. There's health benefits associated from all of those adaptations that our body is doing to the stress of exercise that we're placing on it. However, if you combine that with under eating, you're essentially layering on another stressor. So if you're actively under eating and not meeting your body's energy needs, and you're placing it under the regular stress of high intensity exercise, you will be causing yourself more harm than you will good. And that's due to a number of reasons. Essentially, the first reason is that when you put your muscles under stress and your body under stress from exercise, part of how they adapt is through recovery. And recovery happens from adequate rest, getting enough sleep, and also good nutrition. So straight after exercise, your body is in a state of what we call glycogen depletion. Now, glycogen is carbohydrate stored in your liver and your muscles. And after a high intensity exercise session that lasted for 60 minutes or more, you're often in a glycogen depleted state. And that just means that all of it's been used up. Your fuel stores in terms of carbs in your body is empty. What it wants to do is fill those stores straight back up again. And so consuming some carbohydrate straight after or within a few hours after exercise is the best way to fill those glycogen stores back up again. What also your body needs to do is repair the muscle. Muscles get stronger because when they're stressed under exercise, the body starts to create more muscle tissue from protein in our diets. And so combining some carbohydrate with some protein in a meal or snack after your exercise session, and doing that frequently throughout the day with your meals and snacks, is giving your body the fuel to be able to recover from that exercise session. If you are doing high intensity training, but you are under eating, It means that across the day, you're not actually giving your body sufficient carbohydrate or sufficient protein in order to refuel glycogen stores and for muscles to recover and repair. What ends up happening is you feel extreme fatigue, probably higher amounts of delayed onset muscle soreness, and other problems as well, like increased risk of injury, feeling low, having no energy to do other things throughout the day. One of the other major problems that happens in particularly females who are over-exercising but under-eating is what we call functional hypothalamic amenorrhea. A little bit of a mouthful. There's an acronym for it, of course, called FHA. It is essentially the absence of menstruation that results from low weight, excessive exercise, and stress. And basically it's diagnosed because people have lost their period. Now, what's happening here is when we're putting all of this stress of high intensity exercise but under eating, so inadequate nutrition, is that the connection between the hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain that controls the pituitary gland, and then its connection to your ovaries starts to become disrupted. And there is a number of health consequences associated with actually not adequately meeting your energy and nutrition needs whilst you're exercising at a high amount. These are things like decreased bone mass density, decreased fertility, and an increase in things like anxiety and mood disorders. So it's vital that we get our nutrition right when we're a really high exerciser or we're doing lots of sport or competitive sport. So what's the realistic and practical application for this? Well, at the end of the day, exercise is good for you. It's really good for you. Moving our body, like I said, and the adaptations that come along from the stress of exercise improves our health, but only to a certain point. Over-exercising is something that you can do, particularly if you're not having enough rest days or you're not getting enough sleep. So if you are doing high-intensity exercise and you're doing at least an hour 4 to 5 times a week, you need to have at least one rest day, if not 2, where you don't do any of that high-intensity stuff. Maybe go for a nice gentle walk or an easy swim, but just give yourself 1 or 2 days a week where you actually give your body a chance to recover and repair. The second thing is to make sure that you are meeting your energy needs. If you are in a severe energy deficit, you will struggle big time. And that's when the risk of losing your period and disrupting your hormones becomes even greater. So make sure that you get some individualized advice that you are eating enough food, particularly carbohydrates, protein, and making sure that they're coming from minimally processed whole foods from a variety of different food groups. Because not only does your body need energy, it needs nutrients as well. Lastly is make sure you get plenty of sleep. Sleep is good for a highly active body. It will help you repair, help your brain function better. So many things will come out of making sure that you're getting enough sleep. At the end of the day, the main recommendation is the more active you become and the more you are in competitive sport or you have particular outcomes that need to happen from your training, the more you probably need individualized advice from an accredited practicing dietitian. So make sure you go and see someone who's really well qualified and can give you that great, balanced, but sustainable and realistic advice. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. If you are planning to smash yourself in the gym, make sure that's followed up by a really delicious, filling meal of whole foods. And we'll see you in the next episode.